Welcome back to the deep dive. We're cracking open the archives today, specifically looking at the Genesis papers.
Oh, yeah. We are going right back into the thick of it.
We really are. We want to look at a very specific and honestly a really noisy window of time, which was spring 2024.
Total chaos era.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
You had models dropping every other day, and everyone was claiming they had basically solved AGI.
Right. The hype cycle was just spinning completely out of control back then.
Exactly. But amidst all that noise, there was this one specific signal we really want to isolate for you today. We're looking at the launch of Command R+ by Cohere.
Which is funny because compared to all the flashy consumer demos happening at the time, it felt a bit like, I don't know, like someone showing up to a rave in a three-piece suit.
That is the perfect way to describe it. And the source material we are working from today is their original technical launch announcement from April 2024.
Right, and the title of that post is Introducing Command R plus a Scalable LLM Built for Business.
Built for business. That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. It tells you exactly what their strategy was from day one.
It really does.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to figure out why this specific model, which, it wasn't trying to write poetry or generate videos of cats in space.
Right, it wasn't trying to be your best friend.
No, it wasn't. We want to understand why it marked a critical pivot point in the timeline. This is really the moment the industry started shifting from AI as a creative companion to AI as a hardened enterprise worker.
That's the key distinction for you to keep in mind here. If you look at the landscape in early 2024, the absolute obsession was chat. You know how human does it sound? Can it pass the Turing test? Can it make me laugh? But Cohere was looking at a completely different metric.
They were asking if it could integrate into a mess of legacy corporate systems without breaking things.
Exactly. They weren't building for the App Store.
Right. They were building for the server room.
Yes. They were targeting integrations with heavy hitters right out of the gate, specifically Microsoft Azure and Oracle.
They definitely saw that gap between a cool demo and useful production software.
Absolutely.
So to get there, we really have to unpack three specific technical pillars from this launch announcement. And don't worry, we will translate the jargon for you.
We promise.
We need to talk about RAG, we need to talk about tool use, which is where things get really sci-fi, and we definitely need to talk about tokenizers.
Tokenizers are the unsung heroes of this entire report.
We will make tokenizers sexy, I promise. But let's start with the big picture here. Why was this 2024 release considered a grown-up moment for AI?
It all comes down to trust, or rather, the total lack of it at the time.
Right.
You have to remember, at this point, CEOs were just terrified of deployment.
Because of the hallucination problem.
Exactly. You'd ask an early LLM about your Q3 financial projections, and it would give you this beautifully written, confident answer that was just
Completely fabricated out of thin air.
completely made up. Which is fine if you're brainstorming a sci-fi novel, but it is a career-ending move if you're the CFO preparing a board report.
Total liability. So the first problem Command R+ tried to solve was grounding. And they did that through RAG.
RAG, yeah, Retrieval Augmented Generation.
We hear this acronym constantly in these Genesis papers. But in the context of this specific launch, how was Cohere treating R differently than just pasting a PDF into a chat window?
Okay, so think of a standard LLM as an improvisational actor.
Okay, an improv actor.
Right. Its goal is just to keep the scene going. It pulls from its training memory, it riffs, it prioritizes flow over fact. It really doesn't want to say, I don't know, so it makes something up that sounds plausible.
It's designed to be convincing, not accurate.
Exactly. But Command R+ is not the actor.
It's something else entirely.
Command R+ is built to act like a research librarian. When you ask it a question, it doesn't just rely solely on its internal training data.
Which might be outdated anyway.
Right. Instead, it turns around, goes to the shelf, which in this case is your company's private data, pulls the specific document, reads it, and synthesizes the answer from that actual text.
But plenty of models were experimenting with basic ARG back then. The source material highlights a really specific feature, which is inline citations.
Yes.
Why was that such a heavy focus in their marketing?
Because in a business context, the answer is totally useless without the audit trail. This was the killer feature for enterprise adoption.
Make that real for us. What does that look like?
So Command R+ wouldn't just say, hey, your revenue is up 5%. It would say your revenue is up 5%, and then provide a clickable footnote linking directly to the precise chunk of the PDF where that number exists.
So it moves the user from just blindly trusting the machine to actually verifying the work.
Precisely. It actively mitigates the hallucination risk. If the model makes a claim, you can instantly see where it got that idea. And if the link doesn't support the claim, you catch it immediately.
Which is obviously critical for departments like finance or HR, where accuracy isn't just nice, it's legally required.
Exactly. And to do that effectively, you need to be able to read a lot of documents at once.
Right. The source mentions a 128K token context window,
Which was huge for the time.
Put that in perspective for the listener. What does 128K tokens actually look like in a workday?
It's essentially a small library. It means you can feed the model hundreds of pages of contracts or a year's worth of HR policies or a massive stack of financial reports all in a single prompt.
And it doesn't lose the thread. It doesn't forget what was on page 1 by the time it gets to page 100.
That's the claim they made. It can hold that entire context in its working memory and find the needle in the haystack.
So instead of a junior analyst manually searching through thousands of pages for a specific clause about force majeure, the model surfaces the relevant clauses with the exact citations.
Yes, it's the difference between simple keyword search and actual semantic understanding.
That really feels like the moment AI stopped being a search engine and started being an analyst.
Definitely.
Okay, so that covers the knowing part, getting the facts right. But the launch announcement actually spends more real estate on the doing part. They label this section tool use.
This is my favorite part. This is the bridge from chatbots to agents. This is exactly where the industry was desperately trying to go.
I feel like agent is a term that gets thrown around so loosely now. When Cohere says tool use in this paper, are they just talking about the AI opening a calculator app?
In a basic sense, yes, but at a massive systems level. The source describes Command R+ as a reasoning engine.
A reasoning engine.
Right. It's capable of looking at a request, realizing it can't answer it with text alone, and then deciding to trigger an external software action.
Give me a concrete example of how that works.
So the blog post uses the example of a CRM, customer relationship management software.
Okay.
Imagine you finish a meeting with a client. You might just tell the AI update the client file to show they're interested in the premium tier and schedule a follow-up for next Tuesday.
Standard chatbot would just write a text summary and say, okay, here's a draft for you to copy and paste.
Exactly. It would leave the actual heavy lifting to you. But Command R+ effectively has digital hands.
It connects to the CRM's API.
Yes. It navigates to the specific record, changes the data fields regarding the premium tier, and then interacts with your calendar API to book the meeting.
So it's actively acting on your behalf. It's pressing the buttons.
Yes, but here is where the complexity really ramps up. The document mentions multi-step tool use.
Because most business problems aren't one-click solutions.
Right. If I ask, how does our sales performance in Q1 compare to the competitor's new pricing model? That's not just one simple lookup.
No, that's a whole project.
Exactly. You have to find your sales numbers. That's one tool. You have to find the competitor's pricing. That's a web search tool.
Then you probably need to run a calculation to compare the percentage difference. So that's a code interpreter or a calculator tool.
And finally, you synthesize it all into a report.
And Command R+ figures out that entire order of operations.
Yes, it plans the workflow. Step 1, query database. Step 2, search web. Step 3, calculate. It completely orchestrates the tools in sequence.
There was one detail in this section that I found really striking. And frankly, it's the part that feels the most futuristic to me. The blog post talks about self-correction.
This is the absolute critical piece for reliability.
Walk me through that. If the model tries to update that CRM and hits an error, say a field not found message, or it messes up the date format, what happens?
In the past, or with a basic Python script, it just crashes. You get an error message saying task failed.
Right, you have to go fix it.
But Command R+ was specifically trained to recognize that failure state. It sees the error message from the software and it actually reasons about why it failed.
So it thinks, oh, I used the wrong date format. I should try YYYMMDD instead.
Exactly. And then it tries again with the corrected parameter.
Without the human intervening at all.
Completely autonomously. It's an active loop. Attempt, fail, analyze, retry.
That is a significant shift. That feels like a genuinely human trait. Resilience.
It is resilience. And that is exactly what separates a script from an agent. A script is brittle. If one single thing is out of place, it breaks.
But an agent is adaptive.
Right. The source material explicitly notes that this increases the success rate of complex workflows dramatically because the AI acts as its own troubleshooter.
That effectively removes the human from the debugging loop, which saves so much time.
Ideally, yes. And they didn't just claim this in the marketing. They ran benchmarks to prove it. They cited Microsoft's Tool Talk and the Berkeley function calling leaderboard.
I noticed that. And they were testing specifically for the model's ability to avoid what they called bad actions.
Which is vital. Think about it. If you give an AI hands to delete files or send emails, you absolutely need to know it won't hallucinate a command that wipes your entire customer database.
Yeah, oops, I deleted the fiscal year is not going to fly.
Oops is not an acceptable word in enterprise software.
No, it's not.
So proving high fidelity on those specific benchmarks was their way of telling CIOs it is safe to give this thing the keys to the castle.
Okay, I want to pivot to the operational side of things now. We've talked about what the model does, but we need to talk about where it does it and who it does it for.
Yeah.
Usually these big foundation models are very US-centric.
Historically, yes. The training data for the big models has been overwhelmingly English-centric.
But Cohere made a very loud argument in this paper about Command R plus being proudly multilingual.
They did. It launched with proficiency in 10 key business languages. We're talking English, French, Spanish, Italian, German, Portuguese, Japanese, Korean, Arabic, and Chinese.
Now, let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Is it just a nice to have? Like, oh, cool, our HR chatbot can say hello in French? Or is there a real hardcore business case for this?
Oh, there is a massive business case. It's a hard operational necessity for the types of enterprise clients they were targeting.
Give me an example.
Think about a multinational supply chain. Your HQ is in New York, your factory's in Germany, and your shipping logistics are handled in Japan.
Okay.
You have documents, invoices, emails, shipping manifests sitting in 3 different languages.
And usually you'd need separate regional teams or clunky translation layers to handle that data.
Right. But Command R Plus allows you to query that entire data lake seamlessly. You can ask a question in English about a Japanese shipping manifest, and it understands the source material directly without a middleman.
Which leads us nicely to the hidden gem of this report. It's a graph regarding the tokenizer. I promised you listening that we'd make this interesting because usually tokenization is pretty dry technical stuff.
It is the unsung hero of AI economics, though. I mean, if you care about your budget, you have to care about the tokenizer.
So break it down for us. What is a tokenizer and why does it impact the bill at the end of the month?
Okay, so LLMs don't read words like apple or table the way we do. They break text down into chunks called tokens.
Right.
Sometimes a token is a whole word, sometimes it's just part of a word. But the key thing to understand is that the pricing model for AI is almost always per token.
It's like sending a telegram in the 1800s. You pay for the length of the message.
That's a great analogy, exactly. Now here is the inefficiency. Most models are optimized heavily for English.
Okay.
So the word apple in English is 1 token. Very cheap. But if you switch to a language with a different script, like Japanese or Chinese standard, tokenizers are terrible at it.
Why are they terrible?
Because they haven't been trained efficiently on those characters, so they might need 5 or 6 tokens to encode a single concept because they're breaking it down into tiny operational bytes.
So if I'm a Japanese company using an English-optimized model, I'm paying 5 times more to say the exact same thing as an American company.
With many models, yes,
Yeah.
that was the status quo. You were effectively paying a language tax.
Wow.
The aha moment in the Cohere report is that their tokenizer was specifically compressed and optimized for these 10 business languages.
And the stat they dropped is pretty wild. They claimed up to a 57% reduction in cost.
That is massive. That isn't just a marginal efficiency gain. That literally cuts your cloud bill in half.
They actually called out OpenAI, specifically in the launch graphs, too. They show that for Japanese text, the OpenAI tokenizer required 1.67 times as many tokens as Cohere's tokenizer.
Which puts a very real dollar figure on the choice of model you deploy.
Right.
If you are running global operations, this isn't just about translation quality anymore. It's about TCO, total cost of ownership. You are purely saving money on the compute.
It's interesting because it frames efficiency as a primary feature. Usually we just look at the smartness of the model, but here they're saying we're smart and we're highly cost-effective for global business.
Well, cost-effective might be relative. Let's look at the actual pricing they announced for this thing.
Right. Let's talk numbers, because they were very transparent in the launch papers about the cost.
They were. For Command R Plus, the pricing was listed at $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens.
Which honestly sounds a bit abstract until you compare it to their other models.
Exactly. Compare it to the standard Command R model, the non-plus version that they released just before this. That one was 50 cents for input.
Whoa, so 50 cents jumping to $3. The Plus version is a 6 times price jump on the input side alone.
That is a very steep premium.
It signals that this is a luxury product. or at least a highly specialized one.
Specialized is definitely the right word. You don't use Command R+ to summarize a casual email or generate a Slack message.
You use the cheap model for that.
Right. You pay the $15 output premium when you absolutely need the agent. You pay for the advanced reasoning, the multi-step tool, use the self-correction, and that massive context window.
So if you need the AI to dive into the CRM, navigate a complex workflow across 3 systems, and critically not break anything while doing it, you pay for the plus.
Exactly. Think of it like the difference between hiring a summer intern and hiring a senior analyst.
You pay the senior analyst more because the cost of failure is much higher. The launch environment really reinforces that enterprise focus, too. This wasn't something you just downloaded to your laptop. You couldn't run this on a gaming PC in your basement.
No, this is heavy machinery. It launched first on Microsoft Azure. They even had a quote from John Montgomery at Microsoft explicitly emphasizing security and compliance.
And it was slated for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, too, OCI. It feels like they were deliberately trying to position themselves as the safe option for the Fortune 500.
Safe and private. Cohere has always staked their reputation on being sort of the Switzerland of AI, neutral and intensely private.
They reiterated in this launch paper that they do not access customer data unless explicitly requested. It's a private sandbox. But why is that distinction so important? Doesn't every AI company say they care about privacy?
They say it, but many providers use your prompt data to train their future models. Cohere was very explicit. We don't train on your data.
Which for a bank or a healthcare provider dealing with IPA, that is literally the difference between signing a massive contract and walking away entirely.
100%. They even had Accenture and Scale AI providing testimonials right in the press release to back this up.
Right. Accenture talked about moving clients from experimentation to implementation.
That was the defining buzz phrase of 2024. Everyone was done playing with the toys they wanted to put them to work.
And Scale AI was in there talking about optimizing that total cost of ownership we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
So when we step back and look at the Genesis papers for Command R+, it really feels like a manifesto for the modern AI worker. It's less about the magic of AI and much more about the utility.
It really is. It's boring in the best possible way.
Boring is good for business.
It's infrastructure. It's plumbing. You don't want exciting plumbing.
No, you definitely do not. If we had to synthesize this for the listener, if we boil down Command R+ into its 3 essential pillars based on this source material, what are they?
I would say the first pillar is Verifiable RAG.
The inline citations.
Right. It's the move from generative improvisation to cited, grounded facts. You can trust it because you can instantly check its work.
And the second pillar.
Resilient agents. The ability to use digital tools, chain complex steps together, and critically, to self-correct when those steps fail.
The move from passive answering to active doing.
Exactly. And the third pillar is global efficiency.
The tokenizer math.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being able to operate seamlessly in 10 languages without that massive cost penalty that usually comes with non-English data.
It's a really compelling package. And for you listening right now, whether you're managing a tech stack, working in finance, or just trying to understand the underlying economics of this industry, the relevance is pretty clear.
This model represents the exact moment the fun stopped being the priority.
The playground closed and the office opened.
Exactly. Your boss doesn't want a poem. They want the CRM updated automatically. They want the financial sources cited so legal is happy. And they want the Japanese shipping translation done under budget.
It raised the bar for the whole industry. Good enough just stopped being good enough.
It really did.
Before we wrap up today, I want to pull on that thread you mentioned earlier, the self-correction aspect.
No.
The idea of the AI hitting a bug and reasoning through its own fix.
It's the thing that stuck with me the most from this whole document.
It implies a certain level of autonomy that goes way beyond just following a list of instructions.
It really does, and I think that is the big question we are left to grapple with now. Look, we are historically used to software that breaks when it hits an unexpected variable.
Right, throws an error code and stops.
We are used to automation, which is basically just a train running on a fixed track. But if the software can recognize its own failure, analyze the context, and rewrite its own path to the solution.
At what point does automation become autonomy?
Exactly. And are our corporate business workflows actually ready for software that decides how to fix itself on the fly?
That requires a level of trust we might not have fully built yet. It's one thing to let an AI summarize a PDF document. It's another thing entirely to let it independently troubleshoot your live database while you're asleep.
A fascinating and slightly terrifying thought to leave us on. Are we truly ready to take our hands off the wheel?
We're certainly going to find out. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the foundations of enterprise AI. We will catch you on the next one.